Hey guys, today we will be receiving a very special guest from Sea Life Sydney. He is an aquarist and seahorse expert. He has led to the successful release of more than 90 white seahorses to the wild. Thanks to this, Sea Life Sydney is one of the major contributors in white seahorses conservation. But what's more important here is that they are protecting their survival. Their threats include sedimentation, pollution, and habitat loss. Seeing a city like Sydney protecting these iconic species is incredible. Welcome, Robbie. Feel free.
Hello, thank you very much.
Well, let's start. What are the threats white seahorses deal with in the wild?
That's a really good question. So white seahorses, like most seahorses, are a very fragile but very sort of capable species to survive. And one of the things that they need most important thing is access to food and a really good habitat to allow them to hide in. And so one of the sort of threats that these seahorses have faced, and the reason that they've sort of become endangered, is a result of habitat loss and sedimentation from different types of human activities around the coastlines. But its habitat loss is the major one. Their natural habitats include different types of reefs, rocks, and seagrasses and beds, and a lot of shark nets or beach nets in New South Wales. And with the loss or changes of them have led to a decline in their species numbers.
Can you tell me some of the measures the people, the government, the city is doing to protect these creatures from these threats?
Yeah, so Fisheries New South Wales, who look after the marine life in New South Wales, the government agency that looks after the fish, one of their researchers has spent quite a bit of time studying this species and is the one who determined that their populations had declined so heavily, which is what led to the endangered classification. Now, once an animal is endangered, it immediately becomes protected, and not just the animal, but its habitat as well. And so we've been able to work with the government to be able to help protect these animals and help restore their habitat. And in addition to that, we've been looking at how to potentially help increase their numbers in the wild, which is where we've started an aquarium-based breeding project.
Since when Sea Life Sydney is helping these iconic species for the city of Sydney?
Yeah, we've been doing it since about 10 months. We started last August. We started planning and getting ready for it. And you're right, this is a very iconic species. There a lot of people who visit Sydney understand, they think of Australia with big sharks and stingrays, but also at the same time, they are largely introduced to seahorses, and they represent the smaller stuff, the more unique, kind of quirky animals of the natural environment here. About 10 months ago, we started speaking with not only fisheries, but also a University of Technology Sydney, one of our universities here, and we came up with this project to be able to breed and release and then monitor the success of the seahorses that we've bred at the aquarium.
This is very exciting for me because it means a milestone for the conservation, right?
Yeah, absolutely. This is a really big milestone at least for us, and I think for maybe other projects that can see that there's possibility to be able to go from something based at an aquarium or something. It's never really nice news to hear of an animal being needed to be called endangered, but being able to have a positive impact on that species and be successful up to this point is really quite exciting and very rewarding. And hopefully something that helps encourage other people and other projects and other species around the world.
Are you planning more reintroduction projects like this in the future?
Yeah, hopefully. So the idea is this is sort of a pilot, right? So this is the first time we've done it. This is sort of to prove that this method works, because it's one thing to be able to breed seahorses in an aquarium where they've got ample food and no threats, but it's making sure that those animals are able to survive and assimilate into the wild. And so the thing that really proves success for us is part one, we were able to successfully breed them and we've released them, but part two is making sure that they not only survive in the wild, but begin to interact with the wild-born seahorses, so begin to court and mate and breed with them. And if they can do that, then that means it's quite successful, and we can look at future reintroductions of the same species in different locations. But the most important thing to remember is that just because an animal is endangered doesn't necessarily mean the best thing to do is make more of them. And so one of the most important parts of this project is making sure we've got suitable habitat for them to live in. Because habitat loss was a major contributor to their numbers or their population decline, making sure that there's a good habitat for them is paramount. And so in addition to just breeding and releasing these individual baby seahorses, we've built what are called seahorse hotels. And that's a habitat restoration part of the project, where we create an artificial habitat that becomes natural over the course of a few years. And if that proves itself this year as a concept, then it'll be something that we can expand as well.
Always the animal welfare needs to be in front of the project, and I love that.
Yeah.
How is your routine with the seahorses at Sea Life Sydney?
They're very, very needy. They're very delicate and fragile when they're born. So when they're born, they're about the size of a grain of rice. They're very, very little. And they're born with about 100 of their brothers and sisters. And so, and they require a lot of care and a lot of cleaning and a lot of food. Seahorses aren't like most other animals. They don't have a stomach where they can store food. Instead, it's sort of one in and comes up quite quickly. So they need to eat lots and lots and lots of pieces. And when they're so small, you can imagine they need really small food. So growing their food and making sure that there's enough for the babies to eat and grow was definitely a big part of the daily process. And then not only feeding them a lot, but making sure that they're really clean and the water's really clean and they've got plenty of habitat to live on. It took from when they were born to being released, it took about 6 or 7 months.
Wow.
It was a big commitment.
It's a journey, yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely a journey.
How much babies do a white seahorse normally have?
It depends, and there's, I think, quite a few factors that go into that. But the average, we had some that gave birth to about 30 babies. We had others that gave birth to about 100. So it's a big, wow, very, very, very big process, very big scale.
Well, what can you tell me about the work the city is doing on Sydney Hairboard? From what I've been investigating, Sydney Hairboard has a sizable population.
Mm-hmm. Sorry, can you say it again?
Sydney Hairboard has a sizable population. So from what I have been investigating, there is pollution and habitat loss. It is a place, it is a primary habitat for the white seahorses, but it's also it's suffering from us, for pollution.
Yeah, so you're right. So Sydney is the biggest city in the country, and there's lots and lots of people, and it's iconic for its beaches, and quite a few, many people go visit those beaches each and every day. And, one thing that is definitely, you can't get away from is the fact that, whether intentional or not, people do have impacts on natural environments. With the white seahorse, their environment is, a good chunk of their natural habitat is within Sydney Harbour. And so it's just about making sure we're very careful and very diligent with not only where we encourage these animals to live, but also with making sure that we've educated the public about their presence and what's needed to keep them successful. And so we do that with different types of signs, different ways of communicating through social media and through different routes of education that we can try and get people encouraged and involved with projects like this, but also to understand that, the beach is great and everyone should go and enjoy it. We're not saying don't go to the beach, but we're saying when you do go to the beach, just remember that it is an animal's home and to be very, very careful about what we do there. And that goes into that. And the fact that this animal is endangered gives it a different element of protection. So their environments are a bit more closely monitored. The activities that take place are a bit more closely monitored. And hopefully by preserving this species of seahorse and its environment and its habitat, we'll be helping save or keep healthy a number of other species that live around it.
Yeah. This is a bit off topic, but the COVID-19 affected the project?
It did, in a sense that it meant we needed to work a little bit harder. So COVID-19 had a really big effect on many, many aspects of a normal life. And one of the things that meant we needed to do was just, the seahorses aren't aware that that's what we're going through. And as far as the project is concerned, we needed to make sure that they're as healthy as possible. And it just meant we needed to change our routine a little bit. And we needed to sort of maybe be a bit more diligent otherwise, but was still successful. The seahorses had no idea.
What other species benefit from the work Sea Life Sydney does?
That's a really good question. So I guess seahorses are considered an umbrella species, which would mean that taking care of them takes care, and their habitat takes care of the environment and all the other animals around it. So as far as this project alone, we've made a really good habitat that has been used by not just seahorses, but different types of invertebrates, so different snails and smaller microorganisms, all the way up to cephalopods, cuttlefish and squid, little anglerfish, leatherjackets, a big variety of animals that sort of will colonize these places. Sea Life Sydney Aquarium itself, larger or beyond the seahorses, is involved in consistently trying to be involved in conservation efforts. One of our bigger ones, or more recent ones, is we're looking at animal rescues and rehabilitation. So different types of sea turtles, different types of fish, and probably one of the ones that's quite exciting for me is our gray nurse shark rescues. So gray nurse sharks, or sand tigers, are a pretty large species of shark that live in Sydney, and we've been successful at trying to rescue and sort of give a new second chance of life to some that have come to grief, whether through pollution or fishing gear.
Would you say that seahorses measure the environment's overall health?
Potentially. I think that as far as from a bioindicator standpoint, so from an animal where their health and well-being directly correlates to the health of the environment, seahorses could definitely be part of that. They're maybe not the most sensitive of species out there, so to changes in whether it's turbidity or temperature or pH, they might not be the most appropriate ones for that. But they're definitely the appropriate ones for measuring the success of the environment from a biodiversity standpoint. So they feed predominantly on smaller little copepods or amphipods or mysids or little shrimps and crustaceans that they can pick and graze at. And so they need an environment that has lots of light. They need an environment that's got algae and plants and all of the necessary nutrients to satiate their food. And so their food is sort of relatively demanding, and the presence of that can then be a good indicator for the health of the environment.
What can the local people or us do to protect seahorses?
There's a few threats. So seahorses across the globe, seahorses are found in quite a few different locations around the world. We're fortunate to have a local species here, but we're by no means the only place that have them. I think globally, seahorses suffer from the souvenir trade. A lot of times, millions and millions per year are taken and dried and used as souvenirs and sold for memorabilia.
Okay, I will say it differently. The white seahorses, what can the people of Sydney, the normal people, do to protect them?
I think the most important thing that people of Sydney can do is help maintain their environments and keep them safe. So just be mindful when they go to the beach that there are other animals there, potentially little seahorses. Make sure that we pick up our trash and we're not leaving our pollution on the ground. But then also thinking about things like thinking about things like we want people to see them, we want people to understand them and learn about them. So, you know, going out of your way to look and find and observe them, as long as we're not intervening with them and keeping their habitat safe. Sydney's harbor is beautiful and amazing, and with that beauty comes a lot of boat traffic, and with a lot of boats comes a lot of anchors and just different types of activity, whether it's fishing or boating or even just recreational swimming and diving, can impact seagrass beds, can impact sort of algae clusters, can impact bits of natural environment that these seahorses would live on. So just making sure we're really careful, we follow the legislation and the regulations for where appropriate activities can take place, and we aren't doing any harm when we venture into the beaches, is probably the best contribution the people of Sydney can give.
Do the white seahorses are a common sight, or they were a common sight and their numbers have plummeted?
Their numbers have plummeted across their range, but in Sydney they are quite common. They're elusive in that they blend in very, very well. Their camouflage is amazing, so it takes a little while to find them. But there's quite a few locations around Sydney where people can go and will almost be guaranteed to see one of these species of seahorse.
Is currently the number increasing or still plummeting?
The number is decreasing, and hopefully the idea is this. So that's what's led to them being listed as endangered. They've lost, you know, a very significant amount of not just their available habitat, but numbers over the last sort of decade. And so we're now hoping to be able to change that trend. And in the next couple of years, assuming this project is as successful as we hope, in the next few years, we'll be able to see an increase instead of a decrease. What is
your, in all this project, what was or what is your best experience?
I really liked releasing them. That was the best thing. Our main contribution to the project so far has been to get these babies from little tiny grains of rice to about that big, so about 5 or 6 centimeters, about big enough to survive in the wild. And that's been an amazing experience. They're very delicate and very fragile and required a lot of work and effort from us, from our entire team. And being able to see them out in the wild and go back and still see them out in the wild has been a really big accomplishment, and that's something that we're very, very proud of.
Wow, it should feel incredible to see how all the hard work you did in 7 months is special.
Yeah, it is, and it's really special for this species and for this project and for the seahorses, but for the aquarium as a whole, as well as all of our partners. So this hasn't been just Sea Life Sydney. This has been work that we've done with a few different organizations. Most notably would be the Fisheries Department and the University of Technology Sydney. And between the three of us, we've been able to sort of really spearhead this project and get the results that we're after. So everything's going really well so far, and hopefully that trend continues. And in the next probably 4 or 5 months, we'll start to see those seahorses that we've released start breeding and mating with wild ones, and that is that's the goal. That's what we would hope to see.
This is the only species you have worked with, or there are others? Are there others?
There are other species. There's quite a few different species of seahorses. We've worked with this one in the wild, but we also hold at the aquarium big belly seahorses, which have these really big bellies on them. And it's quite common to have a few different species in aquariums around the world, sea life aquariums especially around the world. So while we're not necessarily new to looking after seahorses, we're new to breeding them, and each species, even if they're all the same type of animal, has its own different ins and outs and details. And so something that will work for a big belly seahorse or a kudu seahorse might not necessarily work for a white seahorse. And so that's what we've had to put the effort in for.
Is the only zoo in Australia that, well, not zoo, aquarium, that has them Sea Life Sydney, or are there others?
Sea Life Sydney is the only aquarium that displays white seahorses. There's other ones, but these ones are a bit natural. They're natural and they're endangered, so they're hard to get. And so we look after them as part of this project and we have them here at the aquarium to show our visitors the story and what we're trying to achieve by working so hard to breed them.
If I ask you to say a message to my viewers about seahorses, what would you tell them?
I would say that they're very unique animals that sort of break the rules that most other fish follow. But they're very sort of mesmerizing and very interesting. The way that they move, the way that they dance, the way that they interact with each other is definitely something that I took for granted until I started working for them. And I think they're definitely unique and amazing creatures.
What do this mean for, okay, no, I will rephrase it. For you, is this project something that you will continue doing until the seahorses are delisted from endangered, or when their numbers are stable, Sea Life Sydney will stop the project?
Yeah, I think that we've started a project now, and it's something that we'll be committed to as long as we can see a positive impact from it. We've been working quite closely with a charity group called the Sea Life Trust, who works closely with Sea Life Sydney Aquarium, and they've been amazing in giving us the resources to maintain monitoring them in the wild. And so as long as we've got that continued support from everyone and the project is proving to be successful, we'll continue to be involved in it. For me, it's a very, very big accomplishment. I'm very, very proud of the work that we've done. And I think that if it continues in the way that we think it will, then this will be something that will not overnight or not in the next year, but over time prove to be quite beneficial, and not just to that species, but to different environments as a whole.
Robbie, it is a pleasure to meet you, to interview you, to know all these amazing things you are doing.
Thank you very much.
I want to keep in touch about the white seahorses situation. I wish and I hope they are delisted from endangered sooner than later, and that their numbers keep stable.
Same. Thank you very much.
I want my sons to see this species. So thanks, Robbie. It is a pleasure.
You're very welcome, Fabrizio. It's nice to meet you.
Is there anything you want to say to my viewers?
I think, yeah, if you guys are interested, and anyone who wants to stay updated with us, if you look at Sea Life Sydney Aquarium on Facebook and Instagram, that would be, and our website, that's probably the best place for some pretty regular updates at how they're doing. But yeah, you feel free to get in touch with me in the future. And like I said, in about 5 or 6 months' time, we'll know if they're breeding. So more excitement to come.
It is a pleasure, Robbie.
Thank you very much.
For future interviews, if you like.
Absolutely.
Well,
thank you very much.
bye-bye.
Have a nice day. Bye.
Have a nice day too.